Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's webinar, Supported Decision Making. I'm Sharon Spurlock, the Senior Director of Family Education here at the St. Louis ARC, and I've got Deborah Fiasco from SSD with me tonight. She'll introduce herself.
I'm Deborah Fiasco. I'm with Special School District in the Family and Community Engagement Division.
Awesome. Thank you. As we talk about decision making and how to support people, even if they have legal decision making supports, we want people to make as many decision makes as possible. So I want you to go back, probably only just a couple of years, to the time when you were a young adult, maybe 18, 19, 20 years old. Think about a decision you made as a young adult, and I want you to think about what the positive and negative consequences of that decision were. I will say that when I was 18, I was a college student. I lived here and my family had moved away, and they had people on campus that encouraged me to get credit cards because as a college student, I was eligible to get a credit card. And I did, and I thought it was free money somehow. And so I just racked up a bunch of debt on that credit card. So obviously, the negative consequences of that were that I learned that credit cards weren't free money, and I had to pay a bunch of interest, and it cut into my social opportunities and other things because I was doing that. The positive side of that is that I learned pretty quickly that I needed to manage my credit and I needed to think about what was important for me to spend and to save for things that I wanted to do. So for me, that was one of the decisions that impacted me as a young adult.
I joined the campus police department as my part-time college job. And my family was not happy about it, but it turned out to be this really positive, wonderful experience. I got to attend all kinds of sporting events and concerts. I got the backstage passes to everything. And really, I felt like it built a lot of self-confidence and independence because I had to be independent. So while it was not something my family all supported, it was a positive experience for me that I grew from.
So, what did your family imagine that there was going to be negative consequences? Why weren't they excited about it?
Well, they were worried about my safety, and
Mm,
for good reason, a little bit. But they were worried about my safety, about being out at night and going
okay.
around and being kind of a security guard. That here I was, 18 years old, and being given that kind of responsibility.
Hmm.
But rather than the negative that happened, it really did build self-confidence, and I learned so much from the experience.
Okay. So there was the potential for negative, but for you, it turned out to be a positive thing. Fantastic. I think that's one of the things, one of the messages that we want to get out to you is that everything has both positive and negative consequences. All right,
Perfect.
we're going to move on then, and Deborah's going to start us off.
So, really, our goal tonight and our goal with supported decision making is to empower individuals. And we're working with people and individuals with developmental disabilities, but for all people, we want to empower them to make really good, informed choices. And we just talked about making choices and learning from that. Um, and we were given the opportunity for that appropriate support and or protection and that's what we want to do for the people that we support and for our children and family members is really give them that empowerment to make those decisions and the level of support to support those decisions and protect them from the really big risks. So here's another thing we know. There is no one size that fits all for guardianship or the alternatives to guardianship. But we also, Sharon and I both believe that supported decision making has a positive effect no matter what the size is of a guardianship, even that supported decision making really should be part of all of our plans. So, why do families consider guardianship? Most of the time, it's about worrying about that risk. And we just kind of talked about it. We all have family members that were concerned about our jobs or what we chose. There are risks for everything. And so usually it's about being concerned that they're going to be taken advantage of by others. Sometimes we just assume that when a child becomes an adult and they have a developmental or an intellectual disability or healthcare issues, that they're going to need a guardianship and that that is the next step. And sometimes we've been told by a professional a family friend, a physician, or a school district, that guardianship is what is needed to support and provide that level of protection. In May of 2024, we even have the American Academy, which just a couple of months ago, of Pediatrics come out with a statement, a policy statement saying that pediatricians should be considering supported decision making as far as ensuring the health and mental welfare of their patients. So we are turning that corner of maybe we won't all be told by our physician and our teacher and our friends that we all need guardianship. So I talked a little bit about the school. So we, at the school district level, when a child turns 17, that IEP period, we educate them that they will become the educational decision maker. And so families get really concerned about not being part of that special education process. A lot of times we have worked their whole lives advocating for them since they were itty bitty, and now we are going to be taken out of the driver's seat. The reality is we should be preparing our children to make some of those educational decisions and be part of that from the itty bitty on. But the reality is also that if your child is still dependent on you because of the Internal Revenue Service Code, Section 152, if they're living in your home and you're supporting them, you are still have the right to receive all the copies and the notices for those meetings and your child's educational records. Your child is still the educational decision maker, but with supported decision making and some of the tools we're going to talk about tonight, they will look to you to help make those decisions.
Okay. So, what we're thinking about is this balance, and we want people to have as much autonomy and self-determination as possible. And we'll talk about why in a minute. So, being able to have a moral compass where you know right from wrong, being able to have the freedom to make as many choices as possible and learn maybe from a mistake that you're going to make, being able to direct your day, being able to direct your future to the best of your ability are all things that give us a sense of value, give us a sense of control in our own lives, and really help to move people forward with the goals in their life. At the same time, there's a lot of people that need support and protection in different components. Maybe there's aspects of community living or money management. I still want some support with my money management. So that doesn't mean that I'm giving up a lot of my control, but I'm going to ask for some advice sometimes on decisions before I make a big money decision. With my relationships or with family member relationships, there may be situations where people need to get some support, or maybe it allows you to give them the autonomy by seeing where they're going and using an app like Life 360 so that you know that they're in a safe space. And health and nutrition are important. Lots of young people are not making great decisions about their health. How can we step in and build skills for the person, but at the same time provide that support and protection? And we know that's really important to families as you're thinking about these decision making um, how you're going to address those. So we want to make sure you know. So we want to think about both sides of this balance and figure out how to help a person build skills to help them move towards the left side of the scale, and at the same time look at how we can provide the least necessary supports for people to be safe and healthy and feel great about what they're doing. Risk is something I think that scares families. And when we're driven by fear, often we do put up barriers. We tell Deborah, you can't go work on the police force at college. There's just too many potential risks. You can't drive that 2 hours to go see your friend at college. There's just too many risks. And it makes sense. Nobody wants anybody to be in danger. However, when we hold back all level of risk from people and don't give them a chance to fail, people feel incapable. They feel incapable of making decisions. There's lowered expectations that they can't do it, that we have to take care of them. Sometimes people have learned dependency. I've spent time with people before that won't make a decision for themselves and turn to me for even the most basic things because they've learned that they aren't able to make decisions. And ultimately, that impacts how you feel about yourself. If you don't think that you can make the decision about how you wear your hair or who you're going to spend time with at a social event, it can really start to impact the quality of your life and how you feel about yourself. We want to show you a short video here that is really a good one that gives us that overview about what supported decision making is. We've gone through 8 slides now, and we really haven't talked about supported decision making. So they're going to talk a little bit about it, and then we'll further define that.
Animated characters and scenes appear as a narrator describes.
We all make tons of decisions every day. Some of them are small decisions, like whether or not you should buy that cool new video game or order pizza. Others are bigger, like deciding what kind of career you want, where you want to live, or who to vote for in an election. Everyone has the right to make decisions. Sometimes we need help with those decisions. If you're a young person or an older adult with a disability, your family, medical service provider, or someone else may ask a judge if they can become your guardian and make all of your decisions for you. This is a legal arrangement called full guardianship. Your parent or guardian might think they have to get guardianship to do things like attend IEP meetings or help you make financial decisions. But that's not true. There are other ways that people can help you make choices. For example, a healthcare proxy or surrogate only helps make healthcare choices, and a Social Security representative payee only helps with some financial choices. But another option that lets you keep control of your choices is called supported decision-making. A supported decision-making agreement lays out a plan for you to meet with a person or group of people you trust. These people can be family members, friends, co-workers, or others who can help you make decisions. You pick the decisions you might need help with, who can help, and how. Your group of supporters might look through information with you and talk through the pros and cons of different choices. They might talk with you about eating healthy foods or ways to keep track of appointments. Want to choose a college, vote in elections, or change jobs? What about date, get married, or start a family? With supported decision-making, you are the decision-maker. With guardianship, the guardian is the decision-maker and makes all the final decisions. Some decisions are big, some are small, and all of them are important. Making your own choices can help you lead a happier, healthier life. If you are a person with a disability and feel like you need help making decisions, know that you have options. You have the right to decide.
All
I
right.
love that video because it's short. And I think the animation on it really does help with explaining it, not just to us as we're learning about supported decision making, but a lot of times I encourage families to go ahead and send it to or show it to the person that they're talking to about guardianship or supported decision making. Self-determination. So that was on that one slide where Sharon was sharing about balancing protection with self-determination is one of them. So it is about the freedom to choose and the ability to organize supports in the way that are unique for you or for your loved one. The responsibility and the opportunity to contribute to one's community. So very important to self-determination and self-esteem. And it empowers us by focusing on the desires and the abilities of the individual. Again, so important that we're focusing on abilities rather than on the things that I need help with, and that it's more respectful of the individual. Also, what research tells us is people with intellectual and developmental disabilities who don't have a guardian are more likely to have a paid job that they like and find fulfilling, to live independently or with some supports, to have family and friends that are not just staff, not just paid staff, but to have real, authentic relationships within the community. Go out and socialize and have those community resources and be able to practice the religion of their choice.
I think we're going to find even more that there's going to be better data about that once the new national core indicators are released, because this really was pre-supported decision making as sort of a concept that we taught people about. So so I think we're going to learn a lot about impact for people when they're making their own decisions.
I agree. I agree. So in 2018, the Missouri guardianship law was revised. And we're going to talk about just a couple of the things that were changed in it. It talked about the less restrictive alternative. And in education, we're used to talking about least restrictive environment. So there's a continuum of support that's needed. We'll get into that in a little bit. But we want the least restrictive alternative. That might be a durable power of attorney, or one of the other things we're going to focus on tonight is that supported decision-making agreement or provisions for protection that are outside of guardianship. Those must be considered before going into full guardianship as least restrictive alternatives. So there's steps to supported decision-making, and it's pretty easy once you break it down. So understanding supported decision-making as the people who are helping with the process, but also the person who is going to ask for those supports. Identifying supporters is really important. I find that families really like to be part of that process rather than making all those decisions, because identifying supporters who have better knowledge or increased knowledge, I don't go and talk to my lovely hairdresser, Jen, about my taxes. She's a great businesswoman. She might be able to help me, but identifying those supporters is really important. And then talking to those supporters so that they know you're my person who I want to help me with this. Sometimes we draft up an agreement, and we'll give you an example of that in a little bit and send that out as a handout and show you where to get it. And you can make that official by having it notarized. And then some companions to the supported decision-making agreement we'll discuss, like power of attorney, living will, special needs trust, some of those other things that help for the health and safety of financial and health matters. And then educating third parties. So going to your physician and saying, I have a medical power of attorney, here's a copy. Or I have a supported decision-making agreement, and my sister is here to support me in my medical decisions. I'm still the decision maker, but this is the person who's going to be helping me, so that those third parties, those people who are helping you, know who your supporters are and that you've agreed to that.
So the tools that we really like to work with families on are coming from our Charting the Life course, Nexus in Kansas City. These are tools that were developed for all people. They were developed in conjunction with families who have members with disabilities. And it's part of a project with our Missouri Family to Family, which is our statewide family support organization that comes out of the University Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities, Education, Research, and Services in Kansas City. So both Deborah and I work very closely with Charting the Life course. They've completed an entire pathwork of how to think about supported decision making in a really easy to understand and graphic format. And this first form is about planning for the future. And it doesn't have to exclusively be about supported decision making, but about anything that you want as you move forward in your life. That can be just within this school year or this season, but it also can be looking forward several years to think about what you may need to have in place. And this is not exclusively for people with disabilities. Families should be looking forward and thinking, what do I want to have in place when I retire? What do I want to have in place when my child graduates? At whatever part of the life stage you're in, all of these tools can be very effective. So sometimes it's hard to think about what you want. We may not really be able to visualize that future where somebody's living in their own community apartment or making big decisions for themselves. But often we know what we don't want. We don't want people to be scared or unsafe. We don't want people to be lonely. We don't want people to be isolated. So kind of identifying those things can help us to then move along this line and take action. What are the things that I can do that are going to help me get to this place that I want to be in and help me avoid getting to this negative space? So knowing that outcomes are often better for people as they make decisions along the way, you can think about how people can make decisions across that lifespan. And here's an example. This is a very generic example so you can think about how this would apply in your life with your child. But even as young as age 2, I know Deborah's got little ones at home. There's decisions they make every day. They'll choose what toy they want to play with or what type of snack. We want our little ones to know it's okay to say no, and so choosing yes or no when it's appropriate to do so. And as they get older, taking responsibilities for chores, choosing how they're going to spend some of their time after school or in extracurricular activities, managing an allowance, beginning to build that understanding of money, of savings, of making choices that are going to have a consequence. If I spend all $5 that I've got in the candy aisle, I'm not going to have any money to buy that figurine that I want. So all these things start to build that concept of decisions and the positive and negative outcomes that come with them. As we move older and up the ladder, how do you engage your child in taking some responsibility at the doctor? Do they go in and talk about what they think is important for their health? Do they take responsibility for the things the doctor tells them they need to do? And that can start small. Maybe the doctor just tells them that they need to be more physically active and they pick that they're going to shoot basketball hoops every night for 10 minutes, or they're going to walk the dog every week. So lots of things that they can do to engage with the doctor. Are they able to participate in a team? There's so many decisions and choices that happen when you have to work in a team, whether it's in a school setting or in a activity after school. It's important for people to be able to make choices about what they do, who they are work with, taking turns, all those pieces could be part of decision making. Can they travel safely? That might mean traveling safety in your car by buckling up and following rules, or it may be being able to walk down the street to a friend's house by themselves safely. And so that can continue to grow as they get older and they build more safety skills. Can they take more responsibility at their annual IEP meeting and with their homework? How do we start to build that understanding with young people that this is their life and their responsibility? And if they don't do that, what are the consequences if they aren't able to take responsibility? And I do want to just stop and say this is one of those things that can start small. When we start talking about the annual IEP meeting, even sitting at the table and telling a teacher what you want to be when you grow up or what's important to you in this school year, maybe that's all they're going to do the first time they go to an IEP meeting. But over time, they can start to share what their priorities are. They can start to share they're really happy about at school and maybe what's not going so well at school. So those are all things that help to build our skill set. And then at the top of my scale, voting, being able to make those decisions and really being able to articulate what's the pro and con of this action that I'm going to take. So that's just a little bit of a walkthrough of how to think about decisions from very, very small steps and to bigger and bigger steps. This slide is a little bit difficult to see, but you'll get a copy of this document when we finish the webinar. This is a decision-making assessment that's available at lifecoursetools.com. You go to the library and look under life domains, and there's a whole section on supported decision making. This tool's been revised a number of times, and I really think it's important to use and to think about with your family members. But it's a good starting place because they've divided every part of your life. This is just the first page of the form. So the first two areas they look at is daily life and employment and healthy living. And then there's a list of questions under each of those areas to find out, where does your family member stand with this? So here's one under healthy living. Can I take medications as directed or follow a prescribed diet? Maybe you can say, yep, they're completely independent here. They've got that one under control. Maybe they say, I don't want to have anything to do with that. I want my parents to be in charge of helping me with medications. And they land in the green area where somebody else makes the decisions. But many times there's a middle ground, this purple ground, where we think about what is it that they can do. If I got a medication dispenser, would they be able to take their medication if it automatically set an alarm and went off at the right time? Would they be able to follow and make a healthy breakfast? Maybe that's all that they are willing or able to do, but that's a place we can start. So really this tool is a conversation starter for you and your family to think about, what decisions are the decisions that my family member can make on their own now? What could they be able to do if we built in some supports? And that's how I really think of this purple area, is supports. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more in a minute.